Welcome to this Arkansas Governor's Quiz Bowl Association how-to video. This and all of our videos are designed to help coaches, school personnel, parents, volunteers, and players learn more about Quiz Bowl in Arkansas. If you coach Quiz Bowl long enough, you will certainly be asked to host a conference tournament. Or perhaps you would like to host one of your own invitational tournaments, but you're unsure about whether you have the details or the capacity to host a tournament. In this video, we will use a checklist to go over the essential hosting steps. We will also talk about some of the want-to items, as well as a few nice touches to add to hosting a tournament. This presentation will be discussing how to host and run a tournament of any size. The checklist we will be using today is designed to host the largest and most complicated tournaments, but it will also be super helpful to host your small invitational or a conference tournament with only 4 or 5 teams. Let's take a look at the hosting tournament checklist and let's get started. So important things to remember is pre-tournament, weeks or months from the tournament, depending on what you're hosting. If you're in a city or a town of any size, you might have an advertising and promotion commission, and that entity many times will give out grants. So check into your local A&P or advertising promotion commission and see if they offer grants. These are good things where you can help pay some folks that could work all day and things like that. Of course, you can rely on volunteers as well. That's just a pro tip I wanted to throw out there. For the school, these are things weeks to months before. Of course, you're going to want to get your admin involved and brief them on some of the things, because you're going to ask them about custodial and any possible fees or whatever. Most schools are not going to charge a fee when you host a small tournament in your building or an invitational where you're trying to raise funds, but you want to check on that. Security, depending on the type of tournament, if especially of any size, you want to check in with a resource officer or have your admin do that. Of course, for sanctioned tournaments, conference, divisional, state tournaments, you're going to have Wi-Fi and internet. So you're going to have to check with your IT about getting that for coaches in the case of challenges. If it's an invitational, you may not need that. School faculty email, it's always good. As soon as you know you're going to be hosting a tournament, send that email to your faculty and let them know that you're going to be using lots of rooms, because nobody wants that surprise on Friday afternoon when somebody, kids barge in to set the rooms. Another thing you want to do beforehand is, once you've got your personnel recruited, your volunteers, your moderators, and so forth, create a text thread for those folks. Include your stats person and your key personnel, like your head moderator. Well, you're going to have all your moderators anyway, but your head volunteer, your parent that's going to do a lot of things. That's really helpful, because you can that text thread, you can kind of preload things as the tournament's getting closer, times to be there and that sort of thing. But during the tournament, it's going to be really helpful with your runners and time changes and all that, and we'll get to that. Weeks or months ahead, you're going to be wanting to think about lunch, the format. If you're in a city or a town, you've got plenty of lunch options. That's great. If you're in a rural area, are there lunch options a few miles away? If not, you may consider things like, some things that we'll get to in a second. But a must-have for everyone is areas for players and coaches to eat, a cafeteria, commons, any kind of large open space where teams that either bring their lunch or order DoorDash or something where they can eat their lunch there. Provide them a list of nearby restaurants if you're going to use that option. Make sure you give them your physical address so coaches will know how to utilize Uber Eats, DoorDash, or whatever. If you're in a rural area with limited or no lunch options, then you're looking at offering concessions. It's a good way to raise some money for a club or maybe your own Quiz Bowl team. If concessions are not possible, then you need to instruct teams to bring their lunch. Optional things that you can think about for concessions is food trucks. If you're hosting a large tournament, such as a big invitational or a state tournament, which those can be larger, if you've got a lot of food trucks in your city, you can ask them to come in So make sure you're going to have to get with them and pre-plan, and you're going to pick the kinds of trucks. You don't want to have all dessert trucks show up or whatever, those kind of things. If you do choose these kind of options, again, it's school clubs. But if you're going to do concessions with a school club or someone, make sure they sell items that are easy and fast to cook and serve, because you're going to want to roll those teams through there really quickly, so you can try to stay on time. Let's talk about room selection. This is something you want to think about really weeks ahead, but 2 to 3 days before the tournament's when you're going to actuate this, and you're going to start moving furniture and all that kind of stuff, and start thinking about it. Choose rooms that are close together, that are large enough. You want to avoid those science and computer labs. Set rooms the day before the tournament. Trying to set them the morning of is usually going to be chaotic, and you'll find things that don't work. You can look at a room a week before, but when you start setting a room, sometimes you'll find either all the electrical plugs are covered up, or it's hard to get to one, so you're going to have to go get extension cords. So those sorts of things will help if you'll do that as early as possible to just kind of think about those rooms and how they're going to work. Use butcher paper to cover posters in classrooms that have a lot of common quiz bowl answers, like the periodic table, list of presidents, things like that. Got a series of pro tips here. Take photos of each room beforehand. A couple days before the tournament, just after school, go in those teachers' classrooms, take those photos of how they have their chairs and where everything is. Then download those photos into a document and create a QR code that you can have, so all of your volunteers, your moderators, everybody can open that. They can see how the room is supposed to look, and they can start putting that room back together when it's time. Pro tip 2, think about your room placement for rooms 1 and 2. Now, this is for high school, state, junior high, divisional, traditional, invitational. You won't need this for conference, because all the rooms are going to be played in all the time. But those rooms 1 and 2 and those other tournaments, those are important because you're going to be in there all day long. And so you want to have the best rooms. You have the biggest rooms, the best heating and cooling, least noise. Think about those rooms with lots of posters on the wall you're going to have to cover up. But it's really about that heating and cooling, having comfortable rooms with plenty of space as you get down to your championship games toward the end of the day. Recruit a group of volunteers, offer service hours, have your high school or junior high team stay after school the day before the tournament is always good, a good way to get that thing set up the day before. Another tip about your rooms you're setting, especially for state, junior high division, and traditional invitational, is use your set of buzzers for room 1. If you have another set, use that for room 2. And if you have a third set, use it for room 3. Because you're going to want as teams get knocked out, you don't want to have teams they've gotten knocked out as your championship room, ones that got knocked out early. So use your buzzers there. So that's just always a good thing. Remind everyone to pack the buzzer power cord. That's one of the most common mistakes that you'll see when you'll leave. The teams have all left. I know, all the tournaments that those of us are experienced with that. You go into a room and there's a buzzer power cord still in the wall. So make sure your personnel, that's the first thing they do, your volunteers, is get that buzzer unplugged and make sure they have all the parts of the buzzer back into the buzzer bag. Signs, especially for the first part of the day, signs are so important. Get those signs, color coordinate them for if you've got high school and junior high, color code high school one, junior high another. But if you're doing a conference tournament or a state tournament, you're going to need that necessarily. But you can have one color that's for directions, with arrows and restrooms and those sorts of things. And then another one is for the tournament rooms. Maybe the tournament rooms are green color, so your directions to those are going to be in that green color. But your informational signs can be in a different color, like, where the restrooms are or the way out or whatever, something like that. Don't forget your buzzer sign. Put that on the door that everyone's going to be leaving. In fact, it's always a good idea to put 2, 3, 4, 5 of those things around where coaches and teams are reminded, hey, don't forget our buzzer, because we all know most of us have always left one before. I know I have. Team folders, prepare those folders. You're going to need your bracket and order of play. You're going to need your schedule, your score sheets, challenge forms, restaurant concession information, food truck list, anything else that might be helpful in those team folders. And then thermostats. If you've got thermostats you can control, it's always good to train your moderators and let them know how they can keep the room comfortable for the teams. So that's always a good thing to do. If you can't control it, then we know what that's like. But and you'll note I've got printable signs. If you look right here, this is all below. We'll get to that in a second. So everything with an asterisk beside it there has got a printable sign that I've got for you in this document. So check-in on tournament day. Have a check-in table. We all know what that looks like because we've all been to tournaments. But try to have a trained parent or volunteer there, somebody that's either done it before or you've walked them through all the steps. Get those trophies that you've got and display them at the check-in table or somewhere nearby so everybody can see those as they walk in. For conference and junior high division and state, you're going to need those printed rosters. And so those will come from the Quiz Bowl Association. They'll be in your host folder, and you're just going to print those off and have them ready for when the teams come in. If you're hosting an invitational, or if it's the conference, the conference tournament, you're going to draw for positions, and so have a cup or a box or a hat or something there with numbered slips on it. For if you've got 8 teams coming, have 8 things in there, 8 numbers, and have them draw for that. So make sure you don't forget to have that there as well. Room and buzzer list. Also, you'll see it'll be below in the printables. That is for you to keep up with where the buzzers go. So if Team Alpha comes in, you're going to write down Team Alpha's buzzers in room 4 or Team Bravo's buzzers in room 2 or whatever. So you keep that list there. And then also on your signage, your room sign, you'll notice when we get down to the printables, you'll notice that there will be a place for team buzzer down there. So you'll even see like room 3 buzzer, who it is, and you're going to write that, have your volunteers write that on there. So it's easy to keep up with. So again, more in the printables below. Stats room, you're going to have someone run stats. Sometimes the tournament host can do that themselves because once the tournament gets going, your workload is going to be reduced a little bit. You're going to be super busy beforehand, but during the tournament, you won't be quite as busy other than putting out fires as things come up. So stat prep, you're going to want to make sure you sit down with your stat person and get those official rosters. If you're doing state, you're going to have those rosters in there. Conference, and divisional for junior high, you want to have those rosters in there so you can download or type in those names for each player. Because if you try to do that the day of the tournament, that is a lot of work. Your stats person can do that if you've got an independent stats person, but it sure saves a lot of time if you'll preload those. The stats program is really easy to run. It's really easy to work. Just takes a little time, just to take a look at it. Those are on our website at arquizbowl.org, and you can see how those work. But again, this sheet will walk you through that. When it comes to scoring, right here, we're going to place a 1 in the play-by column for the corresponding round of each game. We're going to place a 0 in the play-by column if the corresponding round the team had a bye. So 1 means you're playing, 0 means you did not play, you had a bye, and that's in that play-by column that you see right here. Let's make sure we're going to do the play-by column is the one you're going to put those in. And then you're going to have a winner and a loser in the game. So this is in the win-loss column. You're going to place a 1 for a win, and the losing team gets a 0. So winning team gets a 1, losing team gets a 0 there. And then you go to the all tournament tab, and you can place player scores by their name there. So you're going to get those score sheets back. That's going to have individuals there. This is for sanctioned AGQBA tournaments. They'll have those there, and so you're going to place in, like player 1 got 3, player 2 got 4. And you'll place them in the appropriate thing by the name. Again, if you have those names preloaded, saves you a whole lot of time. Room set up for play. So this is pre-tournament and day of tournament. Again, you've got those signs there. You've got the buzzers at the check-in area. Extension cords. You might want to make sure that you always bring some masking tape or and a Sharpie or something like that, so you can write on. If people bring extension cords, make sure you label them. If your own extension cords, make sure you label them that they belong to you or the school. Make sure you got scratch paper. The best way is just take typing paper, computer paper, and just cut it in half. Save some paper, and then pencils for your players as well. But it's also good to instruct and remind coaches to bring their own paper and bring their own pencils. That way, if you work together like that, you're always going to have enough. It's good to have bottles of water. You need a case of water or so for one of these tournaments, and that's just for your moderators. Some mints and candy for your moderators is a nice touch, but also those mints are really good because those moderators are going to be talking all day, and it's really helpful. In your moderator folder, you're also going to put in, you got the set of the rules. You'll get 1 set of moderator guidelines and 2 sets of judges guidelines. These are all on arquizbowl.org. And I've got a hot link here for you that when you download this from our website, you'll be able to go straight to those, but they're under the Coaches Forums tab on our website. And then games, we'll talk about games more in a little bit in the next section, but you want to be careful with those games with your moderators. So, because we need to always be thinking about security with questions, especially for conference, divisional for junior high, for conference and junior high for both high school, junior high, and then state for high school. You want to keep those questions secure. So when the tournament, everybody's arriving, they're registering, your moderators are going to be meeting already. They usually come in before even registration starts or about the time registration starts. Then judges will join them when they arrive with the teams. So you're going to need a host, or your host, you're going to need a room for the moderators to work in. That can be a playing room. A lot of times head moderators usually placed in room 1. You just have your moderator meeting there. So we've talked about game folders a little bit there. Your head moderator, they can make the game folders for your moderator, or if you are a non-coach tournament director, then you can help them out with that. But if you're a coach that's also hosting, you're going to want to make sure you have nothing to do with that, that you want the head moderator will be making those game folders, because you don't, if you're a coach and a host, you should not ever have access to the questions. So those head moderators are going to make the copies, and then they'll make those game folders. But you want to make sure that the head moderators made those game folders. You don't want them to show up at a tournament having not printed off the questions. Instruct your head moderators or remind them not to put the extra games in the moderator folders. You will use the extra games or extra third quarters only if needed. So that's going to be a decision made based on circumstances that occurred during the tournament. So again, those head moderators they'll be the ones that'll have the extra stuff, and then they will dole that out as needed, depending on what happens in the tournament that you would need that. During the moderator meeting, the head moderator is going to lead this meeting. They're going to review questions and any last-minute corrections from the AGQBA executive director. The way we're doing those now, most of the head moderators are going to have a clean set of questions. Any kind of last-minute questions will be any kind of typos or any kind of something that's just blatantly wrong that got missed in all of the reviewing and editing. That's the only kind of corrections you should be making that morning. You can ask moderators if they have any pronunciation issues. There's some tough things to pronounce, and you want to go. Head moderator should go over those and answer any questions or concerns about that. Remind moderators that Quiz Bowl questions are written for reading and not for perfect grammar. I know sometimes in the review process, we get comments back about incorrect grammar. They're not written for grammar. They're written to be read well and have a smooth reading process. And so there'll be commas put in places and dashes put in places. That means a moderator should kind of take a breath there, because it's a natural place that we're wanting emphasis there as they're reading the question. So moderators encourage the head moderators, tell the moderators to pencil in commas, dashes, anything that helps them make them read more effectively. Same with pronunciation guides. They can write their own pronunciation guide that makes sense to them above the word. Moderators, this is really important. Our moderators should do to remind them for each game, give the judge only the game they need before that game begins. Do not give judges future games. Judges they come with teams, and they're moving from room to room depending on who's playing. They're not playing or they're not judging in the room where their own team is. But we cannot give those games to judges, because judges are brought with the teams. They've not been, briefed on everything. They just need to judge the game that's in front of them. So make sure that judges do not have games, except when the game is ready to start. You hand the judge is going to judge the game, and then your other judge is going to get that score sheet for all tournament. Again, show those moderators how to use the thermostats, and so you can make those game rooms as comfortable as possible. After the moderator meeting is complete, invite the judges to join the moderator meeting. This will be right about 15 to 20 minutes for tournament time. The coaches are going to be in a coaches meeting, and so the moderator will have those judges go in to the moderators meeting, and then the moderator is going to go over some things with them. Again, make sure you're reading that correct game, and double check each other. I mean, literally what you ought to do as moderator, got to say, this is game 2. Has everybody got game 2? Looking at the judge, looking at the scorekeeper there, and making sure that everybody recognizes we're on game 2 or game 1 or game 3 or whatever it is. Recognition by the moderator. The head moderator should go over this with the moderator, but also with the judges. By the time we get to the postseason, there's no latitude for recognition of the moderator, meaning if a player blurts out before they're recognized, the answer is incorrect. If you're doing an invitational and it's early in the year, you can have a little grace on that one. But when we're in playoff time at conference, division, state, or of course the high school finals, that's not going to be something that we're going to allow for. Timing, toss-up timing, math computation timing in third quarter. Let's just go over a few of these things. Always good to remember, especially when you've got new moderators and new personnel that have not done a lot of Quiz Bowl before. On a toss-up, teams have 5 seconds to respond at the end of a toss-up question. You can count that with your foot. You can tap with your finger, your hand. Internally, you can use a clock, whatever you want to do. But usually it's just to be consistent. That's the main thing, is be consistent with that 5-second timer. As you're tapping, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, time. You just do something like that. Just be consistent how you do it. One clarification on a blitz, that means a player buzzes before the end of the question. This negates the 5-second rule. So a player who blitzes must answer immediately. Time is out then, and they've got to answer immediately as soon as, when the moderator recognizes them. So if a player interrupts and blitzes before the question's over, the 5-second rule does not apply. Math computation timing is 20 seconds on the clock at the beginning of the question. The timer starts when you finish the math question, reading the math question. It is a continuous timer. A lot of people misunderstand this, but the math timer runs continuously, meaning that you do not stop that clock on a buzz. So let's do a couple of clarifications with that. So let's look at clarification example number 1. If a team buzzes at 14 or 15, 16 seconds in and they answer incorrectly and the 20-second timer expires, Team B, the other team that did not buzz, does get a chance to answer, but Team B must buzz and answer immediately. So all that means is if a team buzzes and they miss and then the time continues on, the time's continuing on, and then the time runs out, it's going to run out almost immediately because it's going to run out while they're answering their question. Then the other team does get a chance to respond, but it must be immediate. They can't get 5 seconds. Clarification 2, let's say a team A buzzes at 8, 9, or 10 seconds. They answer incorrectly. The clock runs and continues to run, and the 20 seconds expires. Team B buzzes. Team B does not get a chance to answer after time has expired. The rationale here is they buzzed at 8 or 9 seconds, got an incorrect answer. There's still 6, 8, 10 seconds left on the clock. That is plenty of time for the other team to buzz. So in that case, they do not get a chance, the other team, to buzz if the time expires. If a team buzzes early and misses and there's time remaining on the clock, the other team must recognize the time is running and must buzz before the clock expires. So just remember those two examples there are the most common ones. Of course, all kinds of things happen in a game. Third quarter timing. This is a 1 minute is put on the clock. This is something that a lot of people still must understand. The clock starts when the moderator reads the first word of the first clue. So the clock on the third quarter starts as soon as you read that first clue, the first word of the first clue. Clock runs and then it runs. You start it and then it runs continuously. There's no clock for third quarter bounce backs, but answers must be given in 5 seconds. So you prompt with answer please or at the immediately before the 5 second mark. So just make sure that when you prompt them, you've given them that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you prompt them, they should then answer immediately. Pronunciations, an answer is correct if it's phonetically plausible. However, players cannot add or subtract syllables for a correct answer. So as long as, it's the difference in British and American. You say aluminum, we say aluminum. If a kid says aluminium, that is correct. They're not taking any syllables out, not adding any syllables. The classic answer in the rules is the German composer his German name is Richard Wagner. But if a student says Richard Wagner or just says Wagner, that is correct. It's phonetically plausible. Doesn't have to use the German pronunciation. So it's always good to brush up on the rules on pronunciations and some of these other things if you're a tournament host as well, so you can help out your moderators. Of course, your head moderator should be brushing up on those rules as well. Buzzer malfunctions are part of the game. This happens. One example, like example 1, toss-up is being read. The player attempts to buzz. The moderator forgot to reset the buzzer. What happens here, if the moderator forgot to reset the buzzer, you start the question at team buzz. By rule, you throw that question out, you reset the buzzer, and then you read a new question from the extras for both teams. Buzzer malfunction number 2 is toss-up question is being read. A player attempts to buzz. Buzzer malfunction. It's unplugged. There's a short in it. You throw out the toss-up, you fix or replace the buzzer, and then you choose an extra for both teams. Buzzer, it's very much like example 1. It's just this time it was an actual malfunction mechanically. Buzzer malfunction 3, toss-up question is being read. A player buzzes and misses the question. The other team attempts to buzz. The buzzer malfunction, it's either unplugged or a short in it, something like that. If that happens, you're going to stop play, and then you're going to choose a toss-up from the extras. You're going to fix or replace the buzzer. Once the buzzer is fixed, you're going to read the extra toss-up for only the team that tried to buzz and had a buzzer malfunction. So that's going to be only for the team that had the malfunction. It worked correctly for the first team and they missed. The other team gets a chance, but it'll be just for that team. This is not the only kind of buzzer malfunction issues you can have, but these are the most common ones that should get you through most tournaments. Let's turn to lunch for our volunteers. and hospitality and that kind of thing, moderators. Um, this is something you got to plan for, a few weeks before, a couple of weeks before. Um, is check with your moderators and volunteers, ask about dietary restrictions or allergies, those kind of things. Um, a hospitality room for coaches, that's an optional thing. If you want to have one, you're not required to have a hospitality room for coaches, but if you want to, you can do that. It is nice to have a hospitality room for your moderators and your volunteers, coffee, juice, donuts, things like that in the morning. It's a really nice touch. You are going to need an area with chairs. You don't have. I'm sorry for this one. You don't have to. An area with chairs or coffee and water for bus drivers. It's a nice touch, but not required. Judges and scorekeepers, you are not responsible for their lunch, drinks, or snacks. You don't need to offer them that. Those folks come with their teams, and they'll be going to lunch with their teams, and they'll have their snacks and things. You don't need to worry about them. Game security, remember while you're at lunch, make sure those moderators are taking their games with them and provide them a place and space where they can eat lunch where they're not interacting with coaches, because sometimes coaches will come in and ask, what's the seating or whatever. You don't want that going on. Let these moderators eat lunch and your volunteers. So try to get them into a space where no one's around. You're going to need a volunteer for lunch pickup. Somebody that can pick up lunch for you, because it's going to be really hard for the host to get away. Or if you do get away, if you're the host, make sure you've got your lieutenant there, somebody who can still run the tournament and knows what they're doing. And then this is another pro tip. There are some schools where you'll have a parent who volunteers to buy the ingredients and prepare lunch for the moderators and volunteers, and that's an awesome thing. And that cost can be your reimbursement amount for the conference tournament if it's an AGQBA event. Again, that private area, and then things to have for them. Make sure they've got water and soft drinks or whatever you need, lunch drinks, plates, cups, napkins, cutlery, that kind of stuff. Volunteer to help clean up from lunch, because those moderators got to go back to work. Many of your volunteers that are runners and things, they've got to go back to work. So make sure you have a volunteer, somebody that can clean up from lunch, so they can get on with what they're doing. And if you did cater in a lot of stuff and you've got extra food, it's always nice to have a food plan for that, leftover food. Either send it home with team members or whatever, get it in the fridge, or if you've got a church or a pantry that could use that kind of food, it's always nice to be able to think about that beforehand. And then your reimbursements, you'll get reimbursed for lunch from AGQBA. Keep all your receipts, scan them, take a photograph of them, and upload them into your digital folder. And then the end of the tournament, it's going to be time to give those trophies away. So get those trophies from the registration desk and get them to the area you're going to give the trophies out. If it's in a different place, many times you just bring them into the championship rooms and you'll give them out there. Don't forget your medals as well, if that's applicable. So at like a conference tournament, you'll start with fourth and then give third, then second, and then the champion. And then at high school state only, you're going to have those 2 third place trophies. So make sure you give those out before those two teams leave. The first and second place teams, of course, for high school state are going to go on and play on TV for the state championship and runner-up trophies. But you don't have to worry about those. Announce MVPs, HPPs, and all tournament players, and hand out medals. If it's a conference tournament, and at state tournaments, you can grab those, also hand those out and grab those players and coaches that have got players that have made it there at state. Buzzers, remind your coaches to get their buzzers and to check everything, check those power cords, check those extension cords if they brought something, and get those out, because they're invariably always some going to be left behind. And then clean up and reset. Provide your volunteers with an estimated time to begin tear down and reset. If you're doing junior high division, high school, state, or an invitational, you can start taking those rooms down as soon as your teams are being knocked out. So once you have a knockout round, half your rooms are going to be gone. And so you'll go from, if I don't know however many rooms you got, 12 rooms, you're going to go down to 6 or whatever your tournament setup is. And so you can start those, having those moderators use that QR code, look at the photograph of the room and get it set back as close as possible. Conference, you're going to have the game rooms all being used all day long, so all your teardown is going to be at the end of the day. Again, check for those power cords, break down those buzzers, and then get those buzzers. That's the most important thing, is get those buzzers put together and then get them back to the check-in area so teams can pick them up as teams are knocked out, and depending on the format of tournament you have. And then use those QR codes. Again, if you get everybody using those QR codes with photographs, it really makes things go a whole lot better. And then, of course, the site host, it's your responsibility. You're going to have to go back and check all those rooms at the end of the day and make sure they got put back as best as possible. And then it's always great to send that email out to the faculty and say, hey, we had the tournament. We did the best we could putting things back. So if I missed anything, I'll come get it and I'll help fix it or whatever. So final things, these printables down here. So I've got scads and scads of printables here for you. This is your buzzer form. You can see the buzzer, the school name, and the notes here where it might go. There's your Team A, Team B. Cut those up and put them in the cup for them to draw if they need to. Sample schedules for junior high and high school tournament schedule examples, and then all of your signs. Of course, you're going to change your prices here or whatever. Stat room, and then I'll just drag down through you so you can see, get the idea. You've got junior high rooms, high school rooms, restroom signs, all that kind of stuff, and then arrows that you can print off and cut out, and change this to 1A or 5A or whatever you need to. So anyway, that document will help you. You've got a lot of cool things there that can help you with your tournament. So that's a wrap on this Arkansas Governors Quiz Bowl Association video. We hope you have found this video helpful. Should you have any questions, reach out to us at arquizbowl.org. That's arquizbowl.org, or to contact us or find more resources. We look forward to hearing from you. Hope you enjoyed this video and find it useful. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions.